My name is Abigail, and at 29, I never imagined my own sister would steal my fiancé. Madison was always competitive, but this crossed every line. The gold wedding invitation felt like a final twist of the knife, but I had no idea what would happen at that ceremony. When she grabbed that microphone and humiliated me in front of everyone, something unexpected changed everything. The universe has strange ways of delivering justice when you least expect it. Before I tell you how this wedding disaster turned into my unexpected victory, let me know where you are watching from. Hit that like button and subscribe if you have ever been betrayed by someone you trusted completely. Growing up, Madison and I shared everything. Our bedroom was divided by a line of tape on the floor that we both regularly crossed when the other wasn't looking. Despite being 2 years younger, Madison was always the more outspoken one, while I tended to keep the peace. We protected each other fiercely through our parents' messy divorce when I was 15 and Madison was 13. The experience bonded us in ways I thought were unbreakable. After college, I landed a job at Anderson Marketing, where I quickly climbed from junior copywriter to project manager. The company hosted an annual charity fundraiser, and during my 3rd year there, that's where I met Adam. He was tall with sandy brown hair and the kind of smile that made his eyes crinkle at the corners. He worked for a partner firm, and when he approached me at the bar to compliment my speech, I felt an immediate connection. "You have a way with words," he said, handing me a glass of champagne. "I counted 3 people wiping tears during your story about the children's hospital." Our first date was the following weekend, and by our 3rd, I knew this was different from any relationship I'd had before. Adam was thoughtful, bringing me coffee exactly how I liked it before morning meetings. He remembered small details, like how I preferred daisies to roses because they were more cheerful. For 2 years, we built what I thought was the foundation for our future. The proposal came during a sunset walk on Virginia Beach. Adam had planned everything perfectly, from the photographer hiding behind nearby rocks to the picnic that awaited us after I said yes. The ring was exactly what I would have chosen. A vintage oval diamond with tiny sapphires on either side. "I want to build a life with you, Abby," he said, down on one knee as waves crashed behind him. "Will you marry me?" When I called Madison that night, she screamed so loudly I had to hold the phone away from my ear. "I always knew you'd be the first to get married," she gushed. "I want to hear everything. Send me pictures right now." Madison had just gone through a difficult breakup with her boyfriend of 3 years and had recently lost her job in pharmaceutical sales. Despite her own struggles, she seemed genuinely happy for me, immediately offering to help plan the wedding and asking if she could be my maid of honor. Who else would I ask? I laughed. "You know me better than anyone." Our parents had finally settled into a civil post-divorce relationship, and everyone gathered for dinner the following Sunday to celebrate our engagement. My mom brought her famous lasagna, and my dad supplied expensive champagne. Even Madison went all out, creating a custom future Mrs. Parker sash for me to wear. During dinner, I noticed Madison and Adam deep in conversation about hiking trails. Madison had recently taken up hiking as a way to clear her head after her breakup, and Adam had been an avid hiker since college. I smiled, happy to see my sister and fiancé bonding. Over the next few months, we began planning our wedding. Madison came with me to tour venues, and we eventually selected a beautiful garden estate that could accommodate our 150 guests. When it came time to shop for my dress, Madison took a day off from her job search to join my mom and me. "You need something that shows off your collarbones," Madison insisted. "They're your best feature." She helped me find a gorgeous off-shoulder gown with delicate lace detailing that made me feel like a princess. As I stood on the pedestal with the bridal consultant pinning alterations, Madison wiped tears from her eyes. "Adam is going to lose his mind when he sees you in this," she said. Looking back, there were signs I chose to ignore. Adam's phone buzzing with texts during our date nights. The way he started mentioning Madison in random conversations. "Madison thinks we should consider a chocolate ganache layer in the wedding cake." Or, "Madison found this great photographer we should check out." I dismissed my occasional unease as pre-wedding jitters. After all, I had never been happier. My career was thriving. with a promotion to senior project manager on the horizon. I had the perfect fiancé, a beautiful apartment we decorated together, and a wedding to plan. Madison was finally interviewing for new jobs and seemed to be recovering from her breakup. Everything was falling into place exactly as I had always hoped. Sunday family dinners became a regular tradition again, and I loved watching Adam become part of our family. He and my dad bonded over football. And he even managed to charm my hard-to-please mother with thoughtful gifts and genuine interest in her gardening hobby. Madison always made a point to sit next to Adam, asking him questions about work and sharing inside jokes that had developed between them. I'm so lucky, I told my best friend Natalie over coffee one morning. How many brides can say their fiancé and maid of honor get along so well? Natalie gave me a strange look but quickly smiled and changed the subject. Another warning sign I chose to ignore. My naturally trusting personality had always served me well in life. I believed in seeing the best in people, in giving them the benefit of the doubt. I never could have imagined how completely that trust would be betrayed by the two people I loved most in the world. 6 months before our wedding date, Adam began to change. He canceled our traditional Friday date nights 3 weeks in a row, citing work emergencies and deadlines. When he was home, he was distracted. Constantly checking his phone and smiling at text messages he quickly hid from view. "Everything okay?" I asked one night as we prepared dinner together. "Just work stuff," he replied, sliding his phone into his pocket. "The Johnson account is taking up all my mental space right now." I tried to be understanding. His advertising firm was pursuing several major clients, and I knew firsthand how demanding the industry could be. But when I found restaurant receipts in his jacket pocket for places we had never visited together, a knot formed in my stomach that wouldn't go away. One Tuesday evening, Adam came home late again. I had prepared his favorite meal, chicken parmesan with extra cheese, hoping to reconnect over dinner. Instead of appreciation, his expression showed discomfort and guilt. "We need to talk, Abby," he said, not touching his food. My fork froze midway to my mouth as I took in his serious expression. "I don't know how to say this," he continued, running a hand through his hair. "I think I need some space. I've been having feelings for someone else." The room seemed to tilt sideways. "Who?" I whispered, already suspecting the answer. "It doesn't matter," he insisted. "The point is I'm confused and I can't go through with the wedding feeling this way." I called Madison immediately after Adam left the apartment, needing my sister's support more than ever. Her phone went straight to voicemail. When I texted, she replied hours later claiming she was at a job interview that ran late and her phone had died. She promised to come over the following day. But Madison never showed up. She texted again with another excuse about a follow-up interview. My suspicions grew when I noticed she had also been unusually scarce over the past few weeks, often unavailable for dress fittings or venue visits that had previously been priorities for her. The devastating confirmation came 3 days later. I had decided to treat myself to lunch at a new cafe downtown, hoping to lift my spirits. As I approached the entrance, I saw them through the window. Madison was sitting across from Adam, their hands intertwined on the table. She was laughing at something he said, leaning forward in that way she did when she was completely engaged in conversation. The intimate gesture of him brushing hair from her face sent me reeling back to the sidewalk. I drove straight to my parents' house, barely seeing the road through my tears. Madison's car was in the driveway when I arrived. She must have gone there directly from the cafe. My mother opened the door, surprised to see me. "Abigail? We weren't expecting you today." I pushed past her and found Madison in the kitchen, casually making a sandwich as if her world hadn't just exploded mine. "How could you?" I demanded, my voice shaking. Madison's face paled, but quickly settled into a defensive expression I recognized from our childhood fights. "I didn't plan for this to happen." "You didn't plan to start dating my fiancé behind my back?" I was shouting now, not caring that my parents had both entered the kitchen, looking confused. "What's going on?" my father asked. Madison sighed dramatically. "Adam and I have feelings for each other. It just happened." "Just happened?" I repeated incredulously. "Things like this don't just happen, Madison. You make choices. Both of you made choices to lie and sneak around. He wasn't happy with you anyway, Madison snapped. You were always working late, putting your career first. He needed someone who would prioritize him. The cruelty of her words stunned me into silence. My mother stepped between us, always the mediator. Abigail, these things are complicated. I'm sure no one meant to hurt you. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Are you defending them? My father cleared his throat uncomfortably. Maybe if you hadn't been so focused on that promotion. I left my parents' house feeling more alone than I ever had in my life. Not only had my fiancé and sister betrayed me, but my parents seemed to think I was partially to blame. The family I had counted on for support was instead supporting the people who hurt me. The following week, I had to travel to Chicago for a 3-day business conference. When I returned to our apartment, Adam had moved out. Not just his clothes and personal items, but furniture we had purchased together, kitchen appliances we had received as engagement gifts, and even framed photos of my family. The apartment felt hollow, stripped of both physical possessions and emotional security. When I drove by Adam's new place to confront him, I recognized Madison's car in the driveway. Through the front window, I could see her plants on the windowsill and her colorful throw pillows on the couch. She had already moved in with him. My friends tried to comfort me, but I could sense their discomfort. Some suggested I had been too focused on my career. Others said vague things like, "You can't help who you fall in love with," as if that excused the deception. My friend group gradually divided, with some people clearly taking sides or simply withdrawing from the awkwardness of the situation. I started seeing a therapist, Dr. Karen, who specialized in betrayal trauma. In her peaceful office with soft lighting and comfortable chairs, I finally found space to express my anger and hurt without judgment. What they did was wrong, Dr. Karen affirmed during our second session. Nothing you did or didn't do justifies their betrayal. Those words were the first validation I had received, and they broke a dam inside me. I sobbed through the rest of the session. Work became my refuge and my challenge. I threw myself into projects, staying late to avoid going home to my empty apartment. But concentration was difficult. During an important presentation to potential clients, I completely lost my train of thought when someone mentioned wedding planning. My boss, Eleanor, pulled me aside afterward. "Take some personal time if you need it, Abigail. We value you, but you need to be present when you're here." I declined her offer, terrified of having too much unstructured time alone with my thoughts. Instead, I withdrew from social activities. I declined invitations for happy hours and weekend brunches. The thought of making small talk and pretending to be okay was exhausting. As weeks passed, the acute pain began to transform into a dull, persistent ache. I could function, go through the motions of my daily life, but joy seemed like a distant memory. I started therapy exercises to rebuild my sense of self, separate from my identity as Adam's fiancé or Madison's sister. I began journaling, rediscovered my love for painting, and adopted a rescue cat named Lola who didn't care about my relationship status. Slowly, I was beginning to imagine a future different from the one I had planned. But I had no idea how much more painful the journey would become before I found my way to healing. The first time I saw a photo of Adam and Madison together on social media, I immediately deactivated all my accounts. The image showed them at a restaurant we had frequented, Madison wearing a dress I had complimented in a store once but never purchased. They looked happy, as if the foundation of their relationship wasn't built on betrayal and lies. 2 weeks after the social media incident, my mother insisted I attend my father's birthday dinner. "The family needs to move forward," she said firmly. "You can't avoid Madison forever." The dinner was excruciating. Madison arrived without Adam, which I later learned was my mother's one concession to my feelings. Throughout the evening, relatives asked awkward questions about my breakup, clearly unaware of the full story. "Sometimes things just don't work out," my Aunt Barbara said, patting my hand. "You'll find someone else when the time is right." Madison attempted to act as if nothing had changed between us. She passed me bread at dinner and asked about my work projects in a forced casual tone that made my skin crawl. when she offered to help clear the table, positioning herself next to me at the sink. I couldn't maintain the facade any longer. "Please stop pretending we're still sisters in any meaningful way," I said quietly. Her face flushed. "I never wanted to hurt you, Abby. It just happened." "Stop saying that," I hissed. "Things don't just happen. You make choices. You chose to betray me in the worst possible way, and now you have to live with the consequences." My mother overheard and pulled me aside. "Abigail Harper, you need to find a way to forgive your sister. We're family." She didn't act like family when she was sneaking around with my fiancé, I replied. A week later, Adam texted asking to meet for coffee. Against my better judgment, I agreed, hoping for some kind of explanation that would help me make sense of everything. The Adam who sat across from me at Starbucks looked like a stranger. He had changed his hairstyle and was wearing a sweater I had never seen before, likely Madison's influence. "I wanted to apologize," he began. "I never meant for things to happen this way. Yet you made choice after choice that led exactly here," I countered. He sighed. "I did love you, Abby. But with Madison, it's different. It's more intense. I think she might be my soulmate." I stared at him, realizing he hadn't come to apologize at all. He wanted absolution. Permission to be happy without guilt. "Did you ever actually love me, or was I just a way to eventually meet my sister?" "That's not fair," he protested, but couldn't meet my eyes. I left without finishing my coffee, feeling somehow even worse than before. Adam's so-called apology had been entirely about his feelings, his happiness, with no real acknowledgement of the pain he had caused. My friend circle continued to shrink. Some friends openly admitted they were still in contact with Madison and Adam, citing long friendships that predated our relationship. Others simply faded away, uncomfortable with the situation. Natalie remained steadfastly on my side, but even she couldn't fully understand what I was going through. "You need to get back out there," she insisted one evening over wine at my apartment. "The best revenge is living well." I downloaded dating apps at her urging, but deleted them after one disastrous coffee date with a guy who admitted he had heard about the situation through mutual friends and was curious about meeting me. To escape the constant reminders, I moved to a new apartment across town. The process of packing was painful, uncovering engagement gifts and photos I had forgotten to dispose of. But the new space, though smaller, felt like a fresh start. I painted the walls, bought new bedding, and arranged furniture differently than Adam and I had in our shared home. Just as I was beginning to feel some stability in my new environment, Madison and Adam announced their engagement. Only 3 months after our relationship ended. He had proposed to her with a ring that, according to mutual friends, was significantly more expensive than mine had been. My mother called immediately. "I know this must be difficult for you," she began. "Do you?" I interrupted. "Because you've been acting like their biggest cheerleader from the beginning." She sighed. "Abigail, I love both my daughters. I'm trying to support everyone through a difficult situation. They created the difficult situation, Mom. And every time you pretend what they did was okay, you're choosing their happiness over my pain." Despite increased therapy sessions and starting anxiety medication, I felt myself spiraling. My work performance suffered to the point where Eleanor called me into her office for a formal warning. "I understand you're going through a personal crisis," she said kindly. "But we need to see improvement in the next 30 days. The pressure of potentially losing my job on top of everything else was overwhelming. I had always found my identity in being competent and professional. Now even that was slipping away." The holiday season approached, bringing with it a new level of family pressure. My mother called daily, insisting I needed to move forward and attend Thanksgiving dinner where Madison and Adam would be present. "It's been months, Abigail," she said. "You need to be happy for your sister." "I need you to respect my boundaries," I countered. "I'm not ready to play happy family with people who betrayed me." In therapy, Dr. Karen helped me identify the stages of grief I was experiencing. "You're mourning multiple losses," she explained. "Your relationship with Adam, your relationship with your sister, your planned future, and even aspects of your relationship with your parents who haven't supported you adequately." We worked through exercises for each stage. For denial, I wrote letters I never sent detailing exactly what happened, forcing myself to confront reality. For anger, I took kickboxing classes, channeling my rage into physical activity. For bargaining, I recognized thoughts like, if I had worked less, maybe this wouldn't have happened, as unhelpful attempts to regain control. A breakthrough came when a mutual friend, Rachel, revealed that she had known about Madison and Adam for weeks before I discovered them but hadn't told me. I didn't know what to do, she admitted over lunch. Madison said it was just a harmless flirtation and would blow over. Instead of the rage I expected to feel, I found myself oddly calm. You chose to protect their deception rather than warn me. That's not what friends do. Walking away from that friendship was surprisingly empowering. I was finally setting boundaries, deciding what kind of people I wanted in my life rather than accepting whatever treatment came my way. I joined a support group for people dealing with similar betrayals. Hearing others' stories helped me feel less alone and gave me perspective. Some members were years past their experiences and had built happy lives they never expected. I also reconnected with old college friends who lived in different states and weren't connected to Madison or Adam. Their outside perspective was refreshing, reminding me that my current situation wasn't the sum total of my identity. As the new year approached, I felt the first genuine stirrings of hope. I wasn't okay yet, not by a long shot. But I could envision a future where this pain wasn't the center of my existence. I had survived the worst betrayal I could imagine, and I was still standing. That had to count for something. The wedding invitation arrived on a Tuesday in February, nearly 9 months after Adam had ended our engagement. The envelope was thick, cream-colored paper with gold foil embossing. Inside was an elaborate invitation with engagement photos of Madison and Adam scattered throughout the design. They were getting married at the garden estate I had selected for our wedding, on a date just 2 weeks after what would have been our anniversary. A handwritten note from Madison was tucked inside. I know things have been complicated between us, but you're still my sister. It would mean everything if you would support us on our special day. Love always, Madison. I dropped the invitation as if it had burned me, watching it fall to the floor of my apartment entryway. The audacity was breathtaking. Not only had they stolen my relationship and many of my wedding plans, but now they expected me to attend and celebrate their union? My phone rang less than an hour later. It was my mother. "Did you get the invitation?" she asked without preamble. "Yes," I replied flatly. "You need to go, Abigail. For the family. Your absence would create unnecessary drama on your sister's special day." I laughed bitterly. Her special day that should have been mine? The unnecessary drama was created when she decided to pursue my fiancé. "That's in the past now," my mother insisted. "Madison really wants you there. She's extending an olive branch." "That's not an olive branch, Mom. It's a power play. She wants me there to show everyone she won." Despite my firm refusal, my mother continued to call daily, wearing down my resistance with guilt and emotional manipulation. Even my father, who had largely stayed out of the conflict, called to suggest that attending might bring closure. In my next therapy session with Dr. Karen, I brought the invitation. "What do you want to do?" she asked after I explained the situation. "Part of me wants to go just to show them I'm okay without them," I admitted. "But another part knows it would be torture to watch them celebrate a relationship built on betrayal." "Those are both valid feelings," Dr. Karen said. "The question is which choice supports your healing process, not what makes your family comfortable." We spent the session discussing boundaries and self-protection. By the end, I felt stronger in my decision to decline the invitation. The following week, I traveled to Boston for a work conference. Our company was partnering with several consulting firms on a major campaign, and I had been selected to present our marketing strategy. The recognition boosted my confidence, which had been slowly rebuilding through dedicated work and therapy. On the second day of the conference, I met Ryan Wilson during a breakout session on digital marketing trends. He was a consultant from our San Francisco office, in town specifically for this event. Tall with dark hair and intelligent green eyes, he caught my attention immediately with his insightful questions and confident demeanor. "Your presentation yesterday was excellent," he said, approaching me during the coffee break. The data visualization in particular was impressive. We fell into easy conversation about work, discovering we had similar approaches to project management and client relations. When the session ended, he suggested continuing our discussion over lunch. I rarely find someone who gets the balance between creative and analytical thinking, he explained as we walked to a nearby restaurant. Most people lean heavily toward one or the other. What I had expected to be a professional networking lunch evolved into something more personal as we discovered shared interests in international travel, documentary films, and rescue animals. Ryan showed me pictures of his golden retriever, Charlie, and laughed when I countered with photos of my cat Lola. She looks judgmental, he observed. Oh, she absolutely is, I agreed. She disapproves of at least 80% of my life choices. When we parted ways after lunch, Ryan suggested dinner that evening. To continue our conversation about behavioral marketing ethics, he said with a smile that suggested he was using work as a convenient excuse. Dinner that night was even more enjoyable than lunch. Ryan was attentive and genuinely interested in my opinions. He made me laugh for the first time in months, and I found myself relaxing in a way I hadn't since before the betrayal. We met for breakfast the following morning and exchanged numbers before departing for our respective home cities. I expected the connection to fade once we returned to our regular lives. But Ryan texted the very next day. Over the next few weeks, we maintained regular contact through texts, phone calls, and video chats. He was upfront about his interest, but never pushy, giving me space to set the pace. When he mentioned he would be in town for a client meeting, I suggested dinner at my favorite restaurant. Several dinner dates later, I found myself opening up about Madison and Adam. We were sharing dessert when Ryan asked about my family, and the whole story came pouring out. I hadn't planned to tell him so soon. Worried the messy drama would scare him away, but once I started talking, I couldn't stop. To my surprise, Ryan listened without judgment, asking thoughtful questions and expressing appropriate outrage on my behalf. When I mentioned the wedding invitation and my family's pressure to attend, his expression turned contemplative. What if you went, but not alone, he suggested. What if you brought someone who would be firmly on your side? Like a buffer? I asked. More like support, he clarified. Someone to show them you've moved on to something better. I'd be happy to be that person if you'd like. I stared at him, taken aback by the offer. You'd willingly walk into that snake pit with me? He smiled. I've sat through corporate mergers where executives were literally hiding weapons in their briefcases. I think I can handle your sister's wedding. For the first time, I considered the possibility of attending. Not for Madison or my parents, but for myself. To show them all that they hadn't broken me, that I was building a new life they couldn't touch. Let me think about it, I told Ryan. That night, I called Natalie for advice. Is he for real? She asked after I explained Ryan's offer. Because that's either incredibly romantic or slightly concerning. He seems genuine, I replied. And it might be satisfying to show up looking happy instead of hiding away like I'm ashamed. Then do it, Natalie urged. Wear something fabulous and walk in there with your hot new guy. Show them you've upgraded. The following day, I texted my mother that I would attend the wedding but would be bringing a +1. She responded with obvious relief, not even questioning who my date would be. With the decision made, I shifted into preparation mode. Natalie and I spent a Saturday shopping for the perfect dress, something that conveyed confidence without trying too hard. We settled on a sapphire blue silk that complemented my eyes and skin tone without being flashy. The goal is to look so good they regret their choices, but not like you're trying to compete, Natalie advised as I modeled the dress. I scheduled hair appointments, nail appointments, and even splurged on a professional makeup artist for the day of the wedding. If I was going to face my betrayers, I wanted to look like the best version of myself. The night before the wedding, I had a nightmare about Madison announcing my humiliation to the entire reception while Adam laughed and pointed at me. I woke up sweating, momentarily reconsidering my decision to attend. Ryan called that morning to confirm our plan. I'll pick you up at 1. We'll arrive exactly 15 minutes before the ceremony starts, and we'll leave whenever you want, he said. Just say the word, and we're out of there, no questions asked. His calm, structured approach settled my nerves. This wasn't about Madison and Adam anymore. It was about reclaiming my dignity and showing myself that I could face difficult situations with grace. As I applied the final touches to my makeup and stepped into my dress, I studied my reflection in the full-length mirror. The woman looking back at me was different from the one who had received that wedding invitation months ago. She was stronger, more determined, and beginning to find her way back to joy. Whatever happened at this wedding, I would survive it. Ryan arrived exactly on time, looking incredibly handsome in a tailored charcoal suit. His appreciative expression when he saw me boosted my confidence even further. "You look stunning," he said, handing me a small bouquet of daisies. "Ready for this?" During the car ride to the venue, we strategized. Ryan had researched weddings and betrayal psychology, coming prepared with conversation topics and exit strategies. If anyone asks how we met, we stick to the conference story, but emphasize the immediate connection, he suggested. No need to mention the timing or that we're still getting to know each other. I nodded, grateful for his thoroughness. And if Madison tries to create drama? We stay calm, smile politely, and remember we can leave at any time, he replied. The power is all yours today. As we pulled into the venue parking lot, I took a deep breath. This was the garden estate I had once toured with Madison, imagining my own wedding here. Now I was arriving as a guest to watch her marry my ex-fiancé. The surreal nature of the situation hit me anew. Ryan squeezed my hand. "You've got this, Abigail. And I've got you." With those words of support, I stepped out of the car and prepared to face the most challenging social event of my life. The garden estate looked exactly as I remembered from my venue tour with Madison, except now her monogrammed signs directed guests to the ceremony. Ryan kept his hand at the small of my back as we followed the stone path to the seating area, a gesture that felt both protective and grounding. Our entrance caused an immediate stir. Conversations halted mid-sentence as heads turned to stare. I recognized the surprise on people's faces, many clearly not expecting me to attend. A few looked away awkwardly, unable to meet my eyes. My cousin Ella rushed over immediately, pulling me into a hug. "I saved seats for us in the middle," she whispered. Not too close to show support, not too far to look bitter. I introduced her to Ryan, grateful for her strategic thinking. As we took our seats, I scanned the gathering crowd. Adam's parents were in the front row, his mother looking uncomfortable in a tightly fitted suit. His sister Caroline caught my eye and gave me a small, sad smile before her husband nudged her attention elsewhere. The ceremony music began, and everyone stood as the wedding party processed down the aisle. I kept my expression neutral as Adam appeared, handsome in his tuxedo but noticeably nervous, pulling at his collar repeatedly. His best man was his brother Michael, who had once drunkenly confessed he thought Madison was high maintenance. When Madison appeared on our father's arm, I had to admit she looked beautiful. Her dress was nothing like the one I had chosen, more fitted and modern compared to my romantic lace gown. She locked eyes with me briefly as she passed our row, her expression flickering between surprise and something that might have been guilt before refocusing on Adam. The ceremony itself was mercifully brief. I watched as Adam recited vows that sounded suspiciously similar to ones he had practiced with me, promising faithfulness and honesty with no apparent irony. Madison's vows included phrases about finding true love when you least expect it that made Ryan squeeze my hand in silent support. When the officiant asked if anyone objected to the union, I felt several people glance in my direction, but I kept my eyes forward, denying them the drama they clearly expected. The relief in the air was palpable when the moment passed without incident. As the newlyweds walked back down the aisle, Madison's triumphant smile faltered slightly when she noticed Ryan leaning close to whisper something encouraging in my ear. It was a small victory, but satisfying nonetheless. The cocktail hour was held in the estate's rose garden, where waiters circulated with champagne and hors d'oeuvres. Ryan proved to be the perfect buffer, smoothly intercepting awkward approaches and steering conversations toward neutral topics when necessary. "So how do you two know each other?" asked my mother's friend Susan, looking curiously at Ryan. We met at a marketing conference in Boston, Ryan replied easily. I was impressed by Abigail's presentation and had to introduce myself. Ryan runs the West Coast division of Wilson Consulting, I added, enjoying the flash of recognition on Susan's face at the mention of the well-known firm. Adam's sister Caroline approached as Susan moved on. It's good to see you, Abigail, she said sincerely. You look really well. Thank you, I replied, surprised by her warmth. It's been a process, but I'm in a good place now. Caroline glanced toward where Madison was holding court with bridesmaids. For what it's worth, not everyone thinks what happened was okay. She lowered her voice. Adam's parents are furious about the whole thing. They always loved you. This unexpected alliance was interrupted by the announcement that dinner was ready. As guests moved toward the reception tent, my mother intercepted me, looking elegant but anxious in navy blue. You came, she said, hugging me awkwardly. And you brought a friend. This is Ryan. I introduced them. Ryan, my mother, Barbara Harper. Lovely to meet you, Ryan said charmingly. Your daughter is an extraordinary woman. My mother blinked, clearly not expecting such direct praise. Yes, both my girls are special in their own ways. I resisted the urge to roll my eyes at her diplomatic response. We should find our table. Inside the reception tent, I discovered Madison had seated us at the Random Connections table far from the wedding party. Our table mates included Adam's elderly great-aunt, a couple who identified themselves as Madison's co-workers, and a groomsman's girlfriend who spent the entire meal texting under the table. Strategic seating, Ryan observed quietly. Keeping you at a safe distance. Dinner was a multi-course affair interrupted by traditional wedding activities. The father-daughter dance was particularly difficult to watch. Remembering how my dad and I had practiced our dance moves in his living room just weeks before the betrayal came to light. As the alcohol flowed and the dance music started, the atmosphere grew looser. I noticed Adam's best man Michael watching us from the bar, clearly intoxicated and working up the courage to approach. Before he could make his move, Madison clinked her glass loudly and grabbed the microphone from the band leader. I want to make an unscheduled toast, she announced, her voice slightly slurred. Adam looked surprised, reaching for her arm, but she brushed him off. I know everyone thinks we have a complicated love story, Madison continued, scanning the room until her eyes landed on me. But sometimes the heart wants what it wants, right? The room grew uncomfortable as guests realized where this was heading. My mother covered her face with her hands. My sister dated Adam first, Madison said bluntly, gesturing toward my table. But let's be honest, everyone. She was just the one he settled for first. Gasps and uncomfortable laughter rippled through the room. I sat frozen, feeling every eye turn toward me, witnessing my public humiliation. Madison's smile was triumphant as she continued. I mean, when you find your soulmate, sometimes they're dating someone else first. Even your sister. She laughed, and some guests nervously joined in, while others looked mortified. I felt my face burning with embarrassment and anger. After everything they had done, Madison still needed to publicly establish her victory, to frame their betrayal as some romantic inevitability. Just as I considered making a quick exit, Ryan calmly stood up beside me, champagne glass in hand. The room fell silent, curiosity replacing the awkward laughter. I'd like to say something as well, he said, his voice confident and carrying across the room without a microphone. Congratulations to the bride and groom. He paused, letting the tension build before continuing. I haven't known Abigail long, but I knew from our first conversation that she was extraordinary. Brilliant, compassionate, and stronger than she gives herself credit for. Madison's smile faltered as Ryan turned slightly to look directly at me. I consider myself incredibly fortunate to be here with her today. And while I can't speak to the groom's past choices, I can say with complete confidence that I'm proud to be her upgrade. The silence in the room was absolute. Someone gasped. Ryan raised his glass toward me, and I felt a surge of affection and gratitude that brought tears to my eyes. It was then that someone at a nearby table recognized him. Wait, aren't you Ryan Wilson? The man asked loudly. The Ryan Wilson who founded Wilson Consulting Group? Ryan nodded modestly as murmurs spread through the room. His company was well known in business circles for its innovative approach and ethical standards. I saw Adam's father lean over to whisper something to his wife, both looking impressed despite themselves. The Ryan Wilson who was just featured in Business Weekly's 40 Under 40 list, someone else added. Madison's face had drained of color, her microphone hanging limply at her side. Adam was staring at his plate, refusing to look up. The power dynamic had shifted so dramatically I could almost feel it in the air. After a moment of perfect silence, someone at the back of the room began to slowly applaud. Others joined in, the applause spreading until it filled the tent. Not for the bride and groom, but for Ryan's perfect comeback. As Ryan sat down beside me, he whispered, "Too much." I shook my head, squeezing his hand under the table. It was perfect. The reception descended into chaos after Ryan's speech. Madison rushed from the room, her white dress disappearing through the tent flap with Adam hurrying after her. The remaining guests broke into clusters of furious whispers, many casting glances in my direction that had transformed from pity to curiosity. My cousin Ella slid into an empty chair at our table. "That was the most satisfying thing I've ever witnessed at a wedding," she said, eyes wide. "Are you okay?" I nodded, still processing what had happened. "I think so. Better than I expected, actually." Several relatives approached our table in Madison's absence, offering apologies and support that had been noticeably lacking over the past year. "I had no idea what really happened," my Aunt Janet said, patting my shoulder. "The way your sister told it, you two just happened to fall for the same man." My Uncle Robert was more direct. "We should have checked the facts before taking sides." "I'm sorry, Abigail." Even my mother approached, tears streaming down her face. "I've enabled Madison's behavior her entire life," she admitted. "I always thought I was protecting her, but I've just been making her worse." As these long overdue recognitions poured in, I felt strangely detached. The validation was nice, but came too late to heal the wounds their silence had caused. Michael, Adam's best man and brother, stumbled over to our table, clearly intoxicated. "Adam's been freaking out for weeks," he confided loudly. "Last night at the rehearsal dinner, he asked me if I thought he was making a mistake. Said he wasn't sure Madison was the one after all." Ryan stood protectively. "Maybe that's a conversation for another time." No, Michael insisted. "You should know. He said he's been comparing every girl to Abby since high school. Even Madison." This revelation hit me like a physical blow. Adam had known me in high school? We had met at a work function in our late 20s, or so I thought. Had our entire relationship been built on a lie? Before I could process this new information, Madison returned to the reception, eyes red but makeup meticulously fixed. She forced a bright smile as she approached the band, requesting they play the song for the couple's first dance. A bridesmaid named Tiffany stopped by our table on her way to the restroom. "Madison's been obsessed with beating you at everything since we were kids," she whispered. "She talked about Adam for months before you two broke up. Said she could get him if she really wanted to." The first dance was a tense performance. Adam and Madison moved stiffly around the floor, her smile fixed and his expression distant. Guests applauded politely when it ended. The earlier festive atmosphere irretrievably damaged. Ryan leaned close to my ear. "Do you want to stay or would you rather go?" I considered the question. The wedding had already served its purpose for me. I had faced my fears, witnessed the truth about Madison and Adam's relationship, and reclaimed my dignity. There was nothing more to gain by staying. "Let's go," I decided. As we made our way toward the exit, Madison intercepted us, grabbing my arm. "You couldn't just let me have this one day, could you?" she hissed. "You had to show up with Mr. Perfect and ruin everything." I gently removed her hand from my arm. "You invited me, Madison. And you're the one who decided to humiliate me in front of everyone." "I was just making a joke," she protested. "No, you were putting me down to make yourself feel superior," I replied calmly. "You've been doing it our entire lives, and I've always let you." "Not anymore." Ryan stepped forward. "Your sister came here today despite everything you've done, out of respect for family." That says more about her character than anything else that's happened here today. Madison turned her anger toward him. And who exactly are you? Her knight in shining armor? Do you even know her, or are you just her prop for revenge? I know she deserves better than what she's received from the people who should have protected her, Ryan replied evenly. And I'm not anyone's prop. Adam appeared behind Madison, looking exhausted. Let's not create a scene, he said, trying to guide her away. I looked at the man I had once planned to marry, searching for any remnant of the feelings I had carried for so long. To my surprise, I felt nothing but pity. I wish you both well, I said simply, meaning it. I hope you find what you're looking for. We left without further incident. The cool evening air a relief after the tense atmosphere inside. In Ryan's car, I finally allowed myself to relax, leaning back against the headrest with a deep sigh. You were amazing in there, Ryan said, starting the engine. Truly graceful under pressure. So were you, I replied. Though I'm still processing your upgrade comment. He winced slightly. Too much? I saw red when she humiliated you like that. I hope I didn't overstep. It was exactly what needed to be said, I assured him. I just never expected anyone to stand up for me like that. Instead of driving straight home, Ryan suggested we stop at an all-night diner. Over coffee and pie, we decompressed, laughing about the more absurd moments of the evening and processing the revelations. So Adam apparently knew you in high school? Ryan asked. Apparently, I said, still bewildered by this information. We went to the same school, but I have no memory of him. It's strange to think he might have been watching me all those years. Sounds a bit concerning. Honestly, Ryan observed. The next morning, my phone exploded with messages. Friends and family who had attended the wedding wanted to check on me, share gossip about what happened after we left, or simply reconnect after months of awkward distance. According to my cousin Ella, Madison and Adam had their first married fight at the reception after we left. The wedding hashtag was flooded with cryptic posts about unexpected drama and truth bombs, though no one explicitly mentioned the confrontation. One surprising message came from Caroline, Adam's sister. I've always thought you got a raw deal in all this. If you ever want to grab coffee, I'd love to catch up properly. No Adam or Madison talk required. Through mutual friends. I learned that Madison and Adam had postponed their honeymoon due to unspecified circumstances. My mother called to apologize again. This time without excuses or attempts to minimize Madison's behavior. I failed you, she said simply. I hope someday you can forgive me, but I understand if that takes time. A week after the wedding, Ryan invited me to dinner at a restaurant we hadn't visited before. No wedding talk, he promised. Just you and me getting to know each other better. It was our first real date without the shadow of Madison and Adam hanging over us. We talked about our childhoods, career aspirations, favorite books, and travel dreams. For the first time in over a year, I felt genuinely excited about the future. At work, a new opportunity arose when Eleanor recommended me for a collaborative project with Ryan's consulting firm. He specifically requested you for the team, she told me with a knowing smile. Said your presentation skills were exactly what they needed. The project meant regular meetings with Ryan, blending our professional and personal connections in a way that felt natural and supportive. My confidence, so badly damaged by the betrayal, began to rebuild as my ideas were valued and implemented. My mother invited me to dinner without Madison present, a first step toward repairing our relationship. Over pasta in her dining room. She asked thoughtful questions about my life and apologized again for her role in enabling Madison's behavior. Your father and I have been talking, she said. We realize we've always had different standards for you and Madison. It wasn't fair, and we're trying to do better. Rumors about the newlyweds' relationship troubles continued to reach me through the grapevine. According to mutual friends, Madison was already expressing disappointment that married life wasn't what she expected, while Adam seemed withdrawn and distracted. I found I cared less and less about these updates. What had once been the center of my emotional universe was becoming a distant background story as I built a new life filled with healthier relationships and renewed purpose. 3 months after the wedding, My apartment had transformed to reflect my improved mental state. Gone were the stark minimalist furnishings I had chosen during my depression. Now colorful art hung on the walls, plants thrived on every windowsill, and comfortable pillows invited visitors to stay and talk. Like my living space, I too had transformed, growing into a version of myself I never could have imagined during those dark days after the betrayal. My career had taken an unexpected positive turn. The collaborative project with Ryan's company had led to a promotion. I was now managing a team of my own, implementing innovative marketing strategies that blended my creative instincts with data-driven insights Ryan had helped me develop. "You've completely turned around this past quarter," Eleanor told me during my performance review. "Whatever changes you've made in your personal life seem to be working professionally as well." My relationship with Ryan continued to evolve at a pace that felt right for both of us. Unlike the whirlwind romance with Adam that had swept me off my feet, this connection was building steadily on a foundation of mutual respect and genuine compatibility. We spent weekends exploring the city, finding hole-in-the-wall restaurants and attending obscure film festivals. Ryan introduced me to hiking, a hobby I had always associated with Madison but now reclaimed as my own experience. "Relationships shouldn't be a competition," Ryan said one evening as we cooked dinner together in my kitchen. That was the problem with Madison. She saw you as someone to beat rather than someone to love. In therapy, Dr. Karen helped me recognize the unhealthy patterns I had accepted in relationships throughout my life. "You've always been the caretaker, the peacemaker," she observed. "You allowed Madison to take center stage because it seemed easier than confronting her behavior. I thought that's what love was," I admitted. "Putting others first, even at your own expense. True love includes healthy boundaries," she countered. "You're learning that now." One Tuesday afternoon, I received an unexpected letter in the mail. I recognized Madison's handwriting immediately, but didn't feel the usual surge of anxiety. Inside was a 5-page handwritten apology detailing her jealousy, insecurity, and regret. "I've started therapy," she wrote. "My marriage is already in trouble. And I'm beginning to see that stealing someone else's happiness doesn't create your own. I don't expect forgiveness, but I needed you to know I recognize the pain I caused." I shared the letter with Dr. Karen, who cautioned against rushing to reconciliation. "This is about her healing journey, not necessarily an invitation to resume your relationship. Take time to process your feelings." After careful consideration, I texted Madison suggesting we meet for coffee. We chose a neutral location, a cafe neither of us had frequented before. When she arrived, I barely recognized my sister. Gone was the polished, confident woman who had taken over my life. In her place was someone quieter, with minimal makeup and simple clothing. "Thank you for meeting me," she said, eyes downcast. "I wasn't sure you would." "I'm not sure where this conversation will lead," I replied honestly. "But I'm willing to listen." Madison explained that her marriage had begun unraveling almost immediately after the wedding. "Adam keeps comparing me to you," she admitted. "The way you organize things. The way you handled conflicts. I realized I didn't win anything. I just put myself in your shadow in a different way." "That sounds difficult," I said, surprised by my lack of satisfaction at her unhappiness. "The worst part is knowing I destroyed our relationship for something that wasn't even real," she continued. "I was so determined to prove I could take what you had that I never questioned whether it was what I actually wanted." While I acknowledged her apology, I made no promises about forgiveness or rebuilding our relationship. "Some trust, once broken, can't be fully restored," I explained. "I'm not saying never, but I need more time and evidence of real change." The following week, Adam reached out via email, asking to meet. Against Ryan's protective concerns, I agreed to a brief conversation at a public coffee shop. "I made the biggest mistake of my life," Adam said without preamble when we sat down. "I think I always will." "Which mistake?" I asked. "Pursuing my sister or marrying her?" He winced. "Both. I got caught up in something toxic." Madison was so intense, so focused on me. "It was flattering after feeling like your career always came first." "My career was building our future," I pointed out. A future you threw away. I know that now, he said, looking genuinely regretful. Seeing you at the wedding with Ryan, so confident and happy. I realized what I gave up. You didn't just give it up, Adam. You actively destroyed it, I corrected him. There's a difference. He nodded. You're right. I came here hoping for, I don't know what. Forgiveness? Another chance. I forgive you, I said, surprising myself with the truth of it. Not for your benefit, but for mine. Carrying anger was exhausting. But second chances? No. That door is permanently closed. As I walked away from that meeting, I felt the final threads of my old life falling away. There was no lingering attachment, no what-ifs or might-have-beens. Just a clean break and the freedom to move forward. My parents continued their efforts to rebuild trust, treating me and Madison as separate individuals rather than assuming we would automatically reconcile because we were family. My father, in particular, made a point of spending one-on-one time with me, something that had rarely happened before. I always took the easy route, he admitted during a lunch together. Supporting whoever was loudest in the moment, which was usually your sister. I should have been more aware of the dynamics I was enabling. My social circle had completely transformed. Gone were the fair-weather friends who had disappeared during my crisis. In their place were deeper connections with people who had proven their loyalty and new friendships based on genuine shared interests rather than convenience or history. Ryan and I took a weekend trip to the coast, renting a small cottage overlooking the ocean. As we walked along the beach at sunset, he asked about my thoughts on the future. A year ago, I couldn't imagine being happy again, I told him. Now I have trouble remembering what that hopelessness felt like. You did the hard work, he said, taking my hand. I just had the good fortune of meeting you on the other side of it. At a family birthday gathering for my nephew, I observed the permanently shifted dynamics. Madison was quieter, less attention-seeking. My parents made conscious efforts to engage equally with both daughters. Adam was notably absent, though no one directly explained why. When Madison mentioned they were in marriage counseling, I found myself genuinely hoping they could work through their issues. Not because I believed they deserved happiness together after what they had done, but because I no longer needed their suffering to validate my own healing. Looking back on the journey from betrayal to recovery, I realized how much stronger I had become. The experience had forced me to establish boundaries, recognize my own worth, and stop accepting treatment that diminished me. In the strangest way, the worst betrayal of my life had led to the best version of myself. I never would have chosen this path, I told Dr. Karen in what would be one of our final sessions. But I'm grateful for where it led me. That's the difference between forgiveness and forgetting, she replied. You don't excuse what happened or pretend it didn't hurt. You simply refuse to let it determine your future. As Ryan and I built our relationship on honesty and mutual respect, I sometimes marveled at how different it felt from what I had with Adam. There was no desperation, no fear of loss. Just a steady certainty that we were choosing each other every day because we wanted to, not because we needed to. The most valuable lesson from my journey was learning that sometimes the things we fight hardest to keep aren't actually what we need. Had Madison never stolen Adam, I might have married him and spent years in a relationship with someone who could betray me so easily. The pain had been excruciating, but it had also been clarifying, revealing the true nature of people I had mistakenly trusted. True healing, I discovered, wasn't about erasing the past, but integrating it into a wiser, more authentic future. The betrayal would always be part of my story, but it was no longer the defining chapter. It was simply one difficult road that led me to where I needed to be. Have you ever experienced a betrayal that ultimately led you somewhere better? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. Sometimes our most painful experiences contain unexpected gifts if we're brave enough to unwrap them. If this story resonated with you, please like and subscribe for more reflections on resilience and relationships. And remember, sometimes what feels like an ending is actually the universe making room for a much better beginning. Thank you for listening, and I wish you strength and wisdom on your own journey toward healing.